What I'm going to talk with you about today is some of the most common misconceptions on uh, writing your book fast. So you see a screen to my right. I'm going to maximize that screen in a little bit. But the biggest thing that holds people back with getting many things done is their mindset. It's not even the actual implementation. And from personal experience, I used to be extremely frustrated when I would watch content, a webinar, a video, or something like that, and there was nothing actionable within that content. And now I understand why there's nothing actionable in a lot of content. It's because a lot of people don't have the proper mindset. The work is fairly simple to do, but people can't get out of their own minds to ever do the actual work, to do the implementation. I never had issues with that. I go do the work, and that's how I came up. I started being called Mr. Implementation. Somebody that's proven or has a process or has been through something already, a coach, a mentor, I go actually do the work. So I just wanted to get context. Now I understand why some stuff is not actionable, why it's a bunch of motivation, why it's a bunch of fluff, because people are in their minds and they hold themselves back. The work is fairly simple. I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's simple. So I'm going to show you today the most common myths so people can understand how to get their book done. All right. So fast implementation book writing myths. So it's in no particular order, but I tried to list the most important first. And the first one is not writing to a specific person, audience, or avatar. So when you're creating your book, you have to think about a particular person, audience, or avatar. Most people, they write a book and they're like, I want to write a book. I want to tell my story. And people don't care about our story generally. They want to problem solve. And then they will start to care about our story and the things that are involved in our lives. So who is your avatar? I work with a lot of real estate avatars. And let's just say this video, for an example. This video, it could go to multiple people. It could go to multiple avatars, but I'm typically serving business owners, entrepreneurs, and more particularly, I'm typically serving real estate entrepreneurs. So I create my content for real estate entrepreneurs. That's an example. I have a colleague and she works in the health space, and that's her avatar. That's her person, right? You don't want to serve everyone, especially early on. You can't serve everyone. Your book is not going to be for everyone. So think about a particular person or a niche. Later on, I'm going to tell you about the truth method, and the truth method is a framework. It's a methodology that I came up with, and it helps you get clarity on the things that I'm talking about in this video, starting with writing to a specific person, a specific audience, or a specific avatar. Number two, typing or writing your book. This is the biggest mistake that most people make as well. They go and try to type out their book. Now, I haven't seen anybody write, but you shouldn't be trying to type your book. What should you be trying to do instead of typing or writing your book? Well, I would recommend, in many cases, it's 2024. In many cases, if you're thinking about writing a book, you're an expert. You've been interviewed. You've been asked the same questions over and over again. So what I would recommend is that you answer those questions in a video format. The video doesn't have to be perfect. That's another thing that holds people back. You answer those questions in a video format. You have that video transcribed. Now, what does that mean? A transcription is simply the words from your video or the words from your audio in a text format. So instead of trying to write a book, have your video content transcribed. Don't try to type or write out your book. It's going to hold you back. I've been working with this process for over 3 years, and all of the people that try to type out or write their book, they never got it done. I'm thinking about one particular person. I'm not going to say his name, but his name starts with a J. And he tried to put everything inside of his book. He was typing it out. He wouldn't follow instructions, and he never got it done. I reached out to him probably a few months ago, and he still hadn't got it done because he created a whole monstrous book, and he was typing everything out instead of following the instructions. So don't try to type out your book. Number three, starting your book from the beginning. So most of us believe that we start our book from start to finish. We start with the title, then we go to chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. You don't do that, right? What's the alternative? What do? Instead of starting your book from the beginning, you kind of start from the middle. And with the truth method we help you do that, right? Once you discover your avatar, we have the truth method is a methodology. It's an acronym, right? TRUTH. So the second letter, which is the R means respond. And you're going to respond to 5 questions around your expertise or topic, or you're going to come up with 5 topics. That's where you start. You don't start from the beginning of the book. You start from the core is what I like to call it. I call it the meat and potatoes. You start from the meat and potatoes of your book. You answer common questions or you address common things about your expertise. So don't start from the beginning because it's going to hold you back. Number 4, you box yourself in by starting with the title. You don't do title first. There's a book that I always like to recommend, and the book is called First 100 Million. I have it here on the side of me. It's by E. Haldeman Julius, and that book is all about the power of titles, right? Some books didn't sell simply because of the title. The core content was the same. But when the author shifted the title, or many case studies within the book, when they shifted the titles to other more intriguing titles, the books sold. So your core content can remain the same, but you don't start with the title. The title is something that's going to be worked on and tweaked and twisted. You're going to have to listen to the market and see what they like. The other thing about titles is be clear, not clever. Communicate what people are going to get from your book. There's no need for you to be fancy or clever early on. Next, number 5, doing it yourself, which means you have almost no help and no guidance. So get help and guidance. Don't try to do this by yourself. I'm thinking about a colleague of mine, and he's been writing his book by himself for quite some time. And it's been a year. I just spoke with him recently, and I said, you know what? I've helped several people get their book done while you were still struggling to write your book for a year. And I wasn't trying to be mean or anything like that, but I was letting him know, like, don't do it by yourself. Like, get help, especially professional help. I've published over 20 books myself. Additionally, I've helped a lot more clients publish books as well. I don't know how many, but I've helped some people publish books. So don't try to do this by yourself. Make sure you get guidance, professional guidance, or guidance from someone that has done this already, because you're going to run into obstacles and you're going to think that you're getting through things that you're not getting through. Number 6, believing people want to hear their entire life story just because. Nobody cares. People, believe it or not, people really don't care about us. They really only care about their own lives, mostly. And they want their problem solved. I'm talking about in the books that we're talking about here is problem solving nonfiction books. So these people don't care about our stories. They care about, what can your book help me get? What is the result that it can help me get? So what you do is you can include aspects of your story, but they don't care about your story. So don't try to tell your entire life story. Make sure it's relevant. Number 7, not having an end goal and main objective. So you need to think about what you want your main objective for the book to be. And there could be several main objectives. There could be several mini objectives within your book. One of the, what we help our clients do is come up with at least one call to action. And some examples of call to actions might be visit your website, for you to have them visit your website. Another call to action might be for you to have them schedule a consultation with you. Another call to action might be for them to go to your website and purchase your course. There are several call to actions or main objectives that you can put in your book. Typically, we recommend you start with one main objective. You put it at the beginning of your book and the end of your book, but you can include several call to actions within your book. Don't make your book a storybook that people read from cover to cover and there's nothing actionable that they can do with the book. So have an end goal in mind. Have a main objective. What do you want to do? Do you want more clients? Do you want them to take up a course? Do you want them to listen to a podcast? Think about the main goal and the main objective. Next, not setting a tightly defined deadline. Okay. And we bolded tightly because this is so important. I was working with a client. I'm going to keep her name anonymous, but I'm going to call her T. And I asked her, I said, T, when do you plan on getting your book done? And she said, I'm going to get it done sometime this year. And I said, I had a revelation. I said, you know what? Let me ask, what does that mean? Sometime this year. So I asked her, what do you mean sometime this year? By the end of January, by the end of December is what she said. And I'm like, interesting. Well, how many hours do you think it would take to get the book done? And I was able to get her to really think about it. And even if she said 120 hours, 80 hours, or something like that, it gives you a deadline, right? So put a tightly defined deadline. She said the end of December, and we broke it down. And I said, look, it should only take you about 40 hours total. And I said that to have her have a realistic understanding of how much time this would take. And realistically, it didn't even take her 4 hours. She should be finished by the end of June. So set a tightly defined deadline. Don't say someday, don't say one day, don't say in a few months. Set a tightly defined deadline and then break that deadline down into hours. Right. With today's technology, you should be able to get a book done in 80 hours or less. A lot less than 80 hours, but I'm just trying to say 80 hours so people have an understanding. Okay. Think about that. Number 9, believing they need to put everything into their book. So what I mean by that is I'm thinking about a person, he wasn't a client, but he was writing his book, and he's like, I need to get it right. I need to get it perfect. I'm like, you don't have to get it perfect, and you can't get everything inside of your book. How do I know that? Why do I know that? Because I have a personal experience where my book, Real Estate Marketing Implementation, you should go get a copy. It's available on Amazon or remarketingbook.com. I've been working on that book for 3 years, and I've tried putting everything in that book. I even wanted to put these myths inside of that book. That book is now 520 pages. It's 520 pages, and I still have so much to add to the book. So you can't put everything into your book. What you want to do is you want to think about when you're writing your book, you're going to let the reader know that you can't put everything inside of the book, and you're going to refer the reader to other resources such as your website, your podcast, your course, your YouTube channel, your social media. You tell them that they have to go to other places and access other resources to have the full understanding or the full scope. You can't put everything into your book. Additionally, another thing that you can do is you can write another book. You can update your book, right? So your book doesn't have to be perfect coming out the gate. Don't try to put everything into your book. Get a book done. And I encourage you to check around on my YouTube channel. You're going to see I've got a video where I explain the truth method. And the truth method helps you understand how you can get that book done fast. Okay. And I'll talk about that a little bit later too. Now, part 2, believing your book should be about you and not the reader. Again, nobody cares about us. They care about solving their problems. So you got to make your book about the reader. And a really good example of this is when people have their books designed, they want it the colors they like and they love. And you want to consider those things, right? They want the title. They want all of this stuff about them. They want to put their picture on the front of the book and the back of the book. They want to show off who they are. Your book should not be about you. It should be about what the reader is going to get out of the book. Now, people like to bring up the exceptions, and they see other people with their faces on the books and their faces on the covers. The best way that works is when people are already known or they're already celebrities. Right. In general, most people don't care about who you are as a person, and you should not include that in the front of your book. And I really don't even like to include them on the back of the book, but I'm okay with that. Your book should not be about you. It should be about the reader. So another good example of this is generally when you see my books, you don't see, generally when you see my books, it's words. And it's not pictures of me. I'm communicating what's inside the book or what they're going to get from the book. So the books are not about me. They're about what the reader is going to get. And you should do the same. Keep in mind that the book is not about you. You can incorporate parts of you and parts of who you are. I'm even okay with a small picture on the back or pictures inside of the book. But keep in mind, the book is for the reader and not for you. Number 11, not describing a clear benefit with the subtitle, right? So I don't have any immediately good examples of this, but communicate what a person is going to get within their book. A good example might be, a lot of people hate the how to phrase, but I was talking with a client. I'm going to call it's the client I was telling about earlier, T, and I said, think about this. If you had an issue and you wanted to solve that issue and you went over to Google, what would you type in? And she said, how to. And I said, exactly. So I want you to consider that when naming your book. Like, it sounds very basic and it sounds very elementary, but that's what we do as human beings. So when you're writing your book, you come up with your title. I really want you to think about describing a benefit, right? And I want you to think about that phrase, how to. Like, what do they get if they purchase your book? And how to is an excellent phrase to use. Next, number 12, aversion to and avoiding AI and technology. Now, what does this mean? A lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't want to use AI. It's inauthentic, it's inhuman. And that is one of the most ignorant and destructive things you can say, and this can hold you back. Now, I recommend, there's different ways to use AI. There's different ways to use AI and technology without it seeming robotic or inauthentic or inhuman. And a really good example probably one of my favorite examples of utilizing AI is using AI, particularly in this case, ChatGPT, to correct the grammar in your book, right? Think about it. AI doesn't just have to be content creation. Think about it like an assistant. You publish a book or you've done something. Well, and in this case, it's AI. Like, you use ChatGPT to correct your grammar. This will save you a lot of time. When I did my first book, I sent it to professional editors, and we had a lot of editors go through that book, and there were so many errors within that book. Enter the scene, ChatGPT, and I ran that book through ChatGPT, and it did a much better job than we did as humans checking the grammar and the spelling on that book. It saved a lot of time and it saved a lot of money. So don't be avoidant to technology and AI. Utilize it in different ways. It doesn't have to create your content, but it can do some amazing things for you. Another thing that I'm really impressed with regarding ChatGPT right now is it will translate pictures for you. As an example, you can paste a picture in and say, what is this a picture of? You can handwrite stuff out right now. And let me tell a story. I had a colleague. She was taking notes from a meeting, and she was like, oh, I got to transcribe these notes. And I said, why would you retype? Because I hate wasting time. Why would you retype those notes? And I said, why don't you try putting that in AI and having an AI transcribe it for you? And it did it, right? We took the picture. It was a big piece of paper, big white piece of paper. And she took notes from a meeting, and the AI transcribed those handwritten notes for her, right? How smart is that? How excellent is that? So don't avoid AI and technology. Just use it correctly. Use it to assist you. It doesn't have to write your content, but it can really assist you and do some great things. Another excellent thing that I like to do with AI is I like to recap the titles. Recap the chapter point. I like to recap the points in the chapter, the points that I communicated, right? It does an excellent job of that. So don't avoid AI. It can make your stuff so much better. Next, 13, wanting their book to be perfect. Your book is never going to be perfect. I want you to chase excellence, not perfection. The book will never be perfect. And this is a habit that many people use to self-sabotage and not get things done, right? The book does not have to be perfect to change people's lives. Right? Your book is for a particular avatar, a particular person. Solve that person's problems, right? Write your book to solve the problems. Doesn't have to be perfect. Think about how many people that can use your message or use your services that you offer. How many people are missing out because you want your book to be perfect? It's actually one of the most selfish things you can do as a person. So don't expect or don't want your book to be perfect. Chase excellence, not perfection. Number 14 is worrying about the entire picture. You don't need the entire picture, especially when I show you the truth method right now. So I have a book. I show it. You can check on my YouTube channel. You'll see it. But when I first started my book, I believe it was maybe 160 pages. And now it's up to 520 pages. I didn't have the entire picture. I didn't have the entire vision. And that's okay. So don't worry about the entire thing. Next. This is a big one, not including case studies and testimonials from past successes. So you've had some past successes. You have some past clients. Incorporate these things into your book. Again, your book shouldn't be an entire storybook. And it doesn't have to be complete content of you just answering questions or addressing a particular point. This is where these case studies, this is where you might want to get creative and start to incorporate stories. This is how you incorporate stories. You use the case studies and you include testimonials inside of your book to prove client successes and to prove the results that you can help people achieve. Number 16, this is probably the most important, not including actionable content or next steps for the reader. So I remember there are several books that I read and there was nothing to do when the book was finished. Great book, but what do I do next? How do I get more help? How do I apply these strategies? What do I do? What actionable things can I do within a book? So at the bare minimum, like I was saying a little bit earlier, you want to include at least one main call to action, one main objective. But what I do, and I show you how to do this when you work with us, is I include actionable content at the end of each chapter. And I call them action items. They're a specific thing. It's going to be dependent on your goals and your objectives. You might have an objective where you don't want people reaching out to you. So you might have them go and do an assessment, as an example. You might want people to actually reach out to you. So you might have them reach out to you. You might want people to join a particular group. You might want them to go access a course. You might want them to write things down. These are different things that you can do. Just recently, I published a book on passive real estate investing. And inside of this book, as an example, I didn't do this, but an action item that I might want to include in this book would be to for the reader to start to get ready to lend out their money. So chapter 1 might say, hey, go to such and such website and sign up for an account. That's something I would encourage them to do in the book. And then chapter 2 might be transfer your funds over to that account. And then chapter 3 might be pick up, call our team and see if you're eligible to work with us. And chapter 5 might be, tell a friend. These are actionable things that people can do, right? So include actionable content and next steps inside of your book for your reader. Have them actually do something. Don't just write a book for the sake of writing a book so it can be read cover to cover. You're solving a problem. You're writing a nonfiction problem-solving book. So include actionable content and include next steps for the reader. All right. And number 17, which is not using the truth method. I have videos on this channel talking about the truth method. And this is just a method that helps you get your book done fast. I found this to be the quickest and most efficient way for people to get their books done. All right. And let me see if I have access to the truth method really quickly. Yeah, we do. So this is a truth method, and this is how it works. It's a roadmap for writing your book fast, 5 clear steps that guide you from start to finish, making the whole process fast, straightforward, and easy to follow. So T, you start with the target niche and the target audience. R, you respond to questions with either video or AI. I recommend you start with 5, but you can go up, you can go down. But answer questions, common questions that people have or questions that people should have about your process or what it is that you're doing. U, unify with introduction and conclusion. These become chapters in themselves, right? So if I go back up to the R, you respond to 5 questions with video. Each of those 5 questions, they become a chapter in your book. The introduction and conclusion, they become a chapter of your book. So far we have 7 chapters in our book. Then we're going to tie in a sales letter into the book. I like to encourage you to put that in the front and the back. That gives you 9 chapters in your book so far, right? So you can see how this thing can start to grow really fast. And then H, which is headline your book. This always comes last, right? You solve the problem and then you play around with the titles. You get feedback from other people and find out what title makes sense to them. And typically, I recommend you be clear, not clever in your title. So those are the most common myths about writing your book. If you want help with implementing the things that I'm talking about, reach out to me and my team will help you get your book done fast, and we'll help you get that done in 14 days or less. Print it and